Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the companion, the Pharoah Predasite. So about a month ago, companions were reworked a bit, and that's why we've been doing a lot of the companion videos in the game. And, or the companions in the game, I should say. And we're going to continue to do the companions until we're pretty much done with all of them, at least the ones that are still path viable. So we have the top commenter of the last video, Dino Gabrick 8054, and the first commenter of the last video, Crabs on Crack. Now, something I also wanted to add about the last video, which was a companion video talking about the Mechanical Hound. I actually did that video twice, and it was because I had to switch up a mod, because one mod was better than the original one I had on. So that video was done twice. The correct video is up right now, and the old video is privated. That way no one gets confused by it. Also, I wanted to make another correction, although I'm not going to redo the video for this correction because this is more of a minor one. But in the new video I had up, because I switched around some things and I also had to switch around like the elements on the weapon, I kind of did it hastily and I didn't really look. And so I had, on the Hound's weapon itself, I had Blast as one of the priming elements. And one of the commenters pointed out, and he is absolutely right here, Blast only has a duration of 1.5 seconds. So Blast is not the best priming element on there. So yeah, don't use Blast as one of your priming elements. So those three elements you pick can be anything though. And I said that in the video. You could pick any three elements that you don't normally use, right? So like if your gun that you're using as a Warframe has viral on it most of the time, then don't put viral on your pet. You know, if you have Blast on your weapon most of the time, then don't put Blast on your pet. But, you know, don't put Blast on your pet anyway, because it's only a 1.5 second duration. So that was the only correction I wanted to make there. Additional correction, I should say, but it's a minor one. Okay, and then we have the recent supporters of Johnny, Eddie, and Lovio. Alrighty, let's get into the Pharoah Predasite here. So this is one of the pets that you get on Deimos. There are 3 different Predasites, and we're eventually going to finish them all off this week. We're going to start with the Pharaoh here. So every pet in the game needs to have a niche that he provides for him to be Steel Path viable. If that pet does not fulfill a niche, then there's really no reason to be playing that pet. You might as well be playing a different pet. So what does the Pharoah Predasite provide for his niche? Well, he boosts your weapon damage and he viral primes. So he does a little bit of 2 different things. So, you know, comparatively to the Panzerweltbefehler, the Panzerweltbefehler is probably a better viral spreader than this dude, but he's also buffing your weapon too, whereas the Panzerweltbefehler doesn't really do that, other than putting viral, which he also does. So, although there are some issues with that as well that I'll get into when I start talking about the Pharoah Predasite, but it's more about I think DE forgetting to fix a mod, Hunter Synergy, so like this dude can't use Tenacious Bond, but hopefully that'll be fixed and he will be able to use Tenacious Bond eventually. Okay, let's get into Big Chungus here, the Pharoah Predasite. This is my second take on this video, so I actually took those mods off. So let me just type in Predasite here, and we're going to go over the specific mods for the Pharoah Predasite. And actually, he's going to use all 3 of these, and that's why I have 3 slots empty there. I took them off in the last take I did. So the Pharoah Predasite has 2 specific mods. He has Anabolic Pollination and Endoparasitic Vector. Now, Volatile Parasite can be used by all of the Predasites. So all 3 of the Predasites can use this mod. And then the Pharoah specific ones are these 2. So let's go over them here. I'm going to get my notebook out so I can talk about some of these. So we'll go over Anabolic Pollination first. Release a cloud of spores that persists for 10 seconds, increasing toxin damage by plus 100% for 15 seconds. Okay, now on my notes here, because this is more stuff that's not said on the mod, this has a 16-second cooldown. This is going to create a 2-meter large spore spot that trails behind the Predasite for 2 seconds. That trail then lingers for 10 seconds. And when you, an ally, or the Predasite himself walk on that trail and get that buff, it's going to be a 15-second duration. Now, the other thing about this is that that toxin is going to mix with elements on your weapon. So this could be better or worse depending if you're accounting for this or not. So if you're not really accounting for anabolic pollination and you're just going in there with like maybe a weapon that's already built out for viral, you already have a toxin and a cold mod, and so you're making viral. This is just going to add to the toxin you already have in your weapon and not really do too much. It'll increase the damage by a very small amount, but it's not really going to do too much. So the proper way to really benefit from this is one of two ways. Probably the most beneficial way, although this is not as consistent because like you would really need to be chasing around your little Predasite to make sure you had 100% uptime on this. But the most beneficial way would be you want to mod for viral, but you purposely leave off the toxin mod, and you're going to just assume that you're going to get your toxin from your Predasite. So you only have cold on your weapon, and then you get the toxin from the Predasite, and now you have viral. And that opens up a mod slot for maybe some more crit damage or a Riven or crit chance or something like that on your weapon. That's the most beneficial way. It just is a little bit scary. Like I'd be a little bit scared running around with a weapon that just had cold and was hoping that I walk into the pollination spores to get toxin. So it's up to you there. The other very beneficial way to benefit from anabolic pollination is to use, if you're already using a element combo that does not have toxin, like let's say Blast. Blast was recently upgraded, and so a lot of people are using Blast now. That's fine too. If you walk into the spores, because Blast doesn't use toxin, it's cold and heat. Well, now you're producing Blast and toxin, which is really cool. So that's another way to benefit from this here. Okay, enough about anabolic pollination there. Let's go over endoparasitic vector. So transmit an endoparasite to an enemy within 30 meters. Tentacles spawn from it, clinging to enemies within 10 meters, slowing them as they move further from the parasite, and dealing 20 viral damage a second over 5 seconds. So, and then in my notes, I have some other stuff that is not said on here. This has an 11-second cooldown. When it hits a surface or an enemy, and at the end of its duration, it's going to cause like a blast explosion in a 5-meter radius. And that blast explosion is also going to apply those virals. So it's not just the target that it's on, it's also dudes around it in 5 meters at the very beginning of that 5 seconds and at the end of that 5 seconds. Okay, and the other thing to know about endoparasitic vector, it used to be kind of crappy because he would shoot it, it has travel time, and so if it missed an enemy and it just hit a wall, it was basically just wasted. Well, a month ago when they did the pet rework, they also went and they kind of fixed endoparasitic vector a bit, and they added a homing effect on it. So now it's more likely to actually hit an enemy. Okay. And then we're going to go over volatile parasite. This is the one that is not specific to the Pharoah Predasite, but it's just for all the Predasites. And this one I don't need notes for because the mod is actually pretty decent at explaining this. So every 15 seconds, your Predasite's going to throw up on the ground, and he's going to throw up a little maggot. And that maggot's going to run around, and he's going to latch on to the nearest enemy, and other enemies are going to shoot at that enemy. So other enemies within 40 meters are going to shoot at that enemy. And then on death, the maggot bursts, dealing 100% of accumulated damage as viral damage. And then in parentheses here, it says plus 40% damage if the enemy dies while latched to those enemies within 10 meters. So he has 2 mods, endoparasitic vector and volatile parasite, that are the viral spreaders. Volatile Predasite is also a little bit of a crowd control too, because like enemies are going to be shooting at that enemy while he's like flailing around. So it's kind of a crowd control and a viral spreader. And anabolic pollination is the one that's going to be increasing your weapon damage by a bit. So they all make it on the build. I'm having these like weird lag spikes for like the past few months actually. So when it comes to preset mods, you want to order them. So the only mods in the game that actually like really care about the order of how you put them on are element mods and precept mods. So the reason preset mods, the reason why the order matters is because the pet will prioritize something if it's further up in the list. So if he's able to do 2 things and one thing is ahead of the other, he's going to choose to do the thing that's ahead first. Stuff that happens all the time, like fetch, doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's fine. So endoparasitic vector, it has a shorter cooldown, so he's going to be spamming this more often. So I feel like this is the most important. Anabolic pollination is also pretty important too. Actually, you probably could argue that maybe this should be higher because this is going to be the weapon damage one. Yeah, I think anabolic pollination probably should be higher. So anabolic pollination, endoparasitic vector, and then volatile parasite last because this has a longer cooldown. So, and the game reads it from top to bottom, left to right, just like, you know, we would read in, I think Western societies read that way. I think some Eastern societies read opposite. But, yep, so from this way, and then, you know, the bottom row there. So, okay, I'm going to go into the Simulacrum real quick, and we're going to show these three off because they're very complicated mods. It's hard to just say them, and then for people to actually understand, I have to show them.
The multitude of creatures you have immortalized would cry out in thanks.
Thanks, Cephalon Samaris. You're so nice. Okay, so I have my big chungus here. What I'm going to do to show these off is I'm going to actually go into Pharaoh clause for a second here, and I'm going to go to a blank config so that they're not actually doing anything. And I'm going to go into his build, and I'm going to show one at a time. So we're going to start off with anabolic pollination. This is the one that's applying that toxin. So I'm going to take these two off for now. Now, the unfortunate thing with anabolic pollination, it is extremely hard to see. It is so hard to see on the ground. So this takes your pet's energy color into consideration. So if we go to Big Chungus here and we go to appearance, his energy color is what the what it's going to look like. And the game starts it as black for some reason. When you just get this from Sun, like from Deimos, it's going to be black, which is like completely invisible. You're never going to see it. So I would suggest either going white or going with a really bright color, but even then it's really hard to see. So I went with white. Now I have like kind of a really light blue. So we're gonna see if we can actually see this damn thing. All right, let me spawn enemies because I don't think he's gonna do it unless I spawn enemies. Did he just cast it there? Yeah, I have the buff. So it is on the ground here somewhere. I don't barely see this friggin' thing. Let's see if he casts it again here. There it is. Do you see that little light blue thingy here? Oh my goodness, it's so friggin' hard to see. Let me know if you found a color that's a bit easier to see than this thing. It is so friggin' hard to see. But look in the top right. I have that buff on. I can also continue. I can walk back into that. I think it fell off. There we go. I walked into it. It must be over here where I could barely see it. There it is. So I'm back up to 15 seconds with that toxin buff. Okay, and just to show off what you could do with this. So if I go to my Grokata is built out for viral right now. But if I was to actually go ahead and take off Toxic, and maybe I can use this slot for something else, who knows, maybe like a Riven or something. But I kept on Rime Rounds, which is cold. Well, picking up that Toxin buff is now going to be mixing with Rime Rounds, and it's going to make viral. So we'll show this off here. So without the buff, if I just shoot at an enemy, he's taking cold damage. But now if I walk into his Toxin field, which is somewhere here. Where are you at, Chungus? Put that toxin field down. What are you doing? You probably put it down somewhere. There he goes. All right. Now I have the toxin buff. I shoot an enemy, and it's viral. So that's one way to benefit from that there. Okay. Let me put my... Go back to Big Chungus here. And so that we showed off the anabolic pollination. Let's show off the other ones here. Predasite. Endoparasitic vector. This is the one where he's going to shoot it at an enemy. It's going to hit an enemy. It's going to cause some viral damage over a certain amount of seconds. And when it hits that enemy and when that 5 seconds is up, it's also going to explode 5 meters out. And that 5 meters out is also going to apply viral. So you'll see when he shoots this... Did I actually put it on? Oh, you know, I'm having a weird day today. Yeah, I did put it on. Okay. So when he actually shoots this... you'll see that enemies around the target. So we hit that dude, but you see how they also have viral procs, and after 5 seconds it'll explode again, and they'll get more viral procs. So it's pretty decent. Now the actual tentacle part of it is just a slow on enemies. It's a little bit like less impressive than maybe you would think, but The explosion of it is going to apply viral. The main dude gets the most, and then dudes around him are also going to be getting viral. Okay, so that's how that one works there. And now we get to watch him throw up a little larva. So we're going to take parasitic vector off. We're going to type in Predasite, and we're going to do volatile parasite. This is the one where he throws up a larva. You see, let's watch him throw up here. Come on, buddy. Where are you going? Come on. There we go. Oh my goodness, it's a little larva. Now, that larva is going to seek out an enemy. I think he's a little bit too far away. That's adorable. Look at that thing. That thing is friggin' adorable. All right, let's move him a little bit closer, and let's get that larva closer to these guys. So he's going to throw up another larva in a few seconds here. There he goes. Oh, he threw up that larva. And that's going to attack this enemy. It's going to attach to his face, probably start doing unspeakable things to this enemy. And then at the end of its duration, or when I kill this enemy, it's going to explode in a 10 meter and also put viral. See how these guys have viral on them now? At least the ones that were 10 meters away. So that's what the larva does. It also provides some CC as well, because if I was to turn on their AI here, let's turn their AI on. You see how they're shooting at their friend with the larva on his face? I think the larva just exploded. Let's see. Where did the larva go? There we go. Now they're beating up their friend because he has the larva on his face. So not only is it a okay viral spreader, but it's a decent CC as well. Okay, let's turn these guys off here. I think that was everything we were going to show in the Simulacrum. So let's leave Simulacrum here. Go back to Big Chungus. We'll put our mods back on that we took off. Volatile Parasite. You see how I'm having that? I've been having that network not responding thing. I say that in like every other video now. Predasite. Okay, Anabolic Pollination. That's probably the most important one, so it should be the one that's up there. Okay, let's go over the mods for Big Chungus here. The Pharoah Predasite. We're going to start with 2 survivability mods. So this is going to be dependent on the Warframe you pick. If you're using a health and armor Warframe like I am, then it makes sense to link your health to your pet and to link your armor to your pet. Now, if you're using a shield and adaptation Warframe, you wouldn't want to link your armor. You would want to link your shields instead. And so this is what it would look like. You would link your shields and link your health. The other way to set this up if you were a shield and adaptation Warframe is to take off link health, you keep linking your shields, and then you add haste and deflection, which is going to increase your pet's shield gate potential. The other consideration for this pet specifically, because Pharoah Predasites, even though they're not called Kubros, they actually count as Kubros, they can use the Mecha set. So you can also, for a shield and adaptation Warframe, instead of using haste and deflection, which is 90 shield recharge and minus 45% shield recharge delay, you could use Mecha recharge, which is 90 shield recharge. You don't get the shield recharge delay, so it's a little bit weaker of a defensive tool, but you get more of an offensive ability with this because of the set bonus, because we're going to be using another Mecha mod on the claws. So this is another way to build out for the shield and adaptation Warframe. Okay, I'm going to go back to my health and armor setup, though. And then not all Warframes are health and armor, and not all Warframes are shield and adaptation. Some Warframes are shield gating Warframes, and shield gating Warframes don't stack health, shields, or armor. They kind of have bad stats, and if you have bad stats, you don't want to be linking your bad stats, and so you would be using the regular mods instead. You would use Enhanced Vitality, Metal Fiber, and Calculated Redirection. So you could choose one of those, or 2 of those, to go in there. The other thing to consider is that on a shield-getting Warframe, you could still use Haste and Deflection, and you can still use Mecha Recharge as well. Okay, let's continue on. So we have Synth Deconstruct here. Enemies injured by the companion have a 25% chance to drop a health orb when killed. So your pet's going to be doing a lot of damage to a lot of different things, and so you're just going to be pooping out a lot of health orbs. Now, this combos incredibly well if your Warframe uses a mod called Equilibrium, or if you just need extra health. Maybe you're struggling and you need some extra health orbs, and so this is going to be really nice for you. if for some reason neither of those things are true for you, if you're not using equilibrium or you don't need extra health, then synth deconstruct you can take off and you could put something else in this slot. Anabolic pollination we already went over. And then we have primed animal instincts. And I always say that I believe primed animal instincts and fetch are mandatory on pet builds. However, there are a lot of people that don't run with primed animal instincts, so you could technically consider this a flex slot too if you want to put something else here. But me personally, I always run with primed animal instincts unless for some reason, there's absolutely no mod space. So this gives you loot radar and enemy radar. All right, we're going to continue on with Contagious Bond. When your companion kills an enemy afflicted with a status effect, 50% of the status effect spreads to other enemies within 9 meters, max of 100 stacks. So your little dude, he's going to be viral spreading. He's also going to be magnetic spreading because of the claws. And the Contagious Bond just helps him with spreading things. So you're going to have Contagious Bond helping to spread. You're going to have that mecha set that helps to spread. Even if you don't go with the mecha recharge here, we're still going to be using another mecha mod on the claws that's going to continue to help with the spreading as well. And then this mod also helps with spreading, which is Duplex Bond. Companion will clone itself each time you expend 100 energy. Up to 3 clones. Clones live 30 seconds and cannot use abilities. Their kills have a 50% chance of dropping energy orbs. So the Predasites, kind of like Kavats and Kubros, they actually have pretty decent killing potential. They have pretty good crit chances. They have pretty good crit multipliers, status chances. So the little clones from Duplex Bond absolutely can pretty easily kill things. And so they're also going to be dropping energy orbs. And not only that, but the clones also help to spread statuses. Endoparasitic Vector we already went over. Volatile Parasite we already went over. And Fetch, this is the one that just collects your loot for you. Okay, so that's how you build out the Pharoah Predasite. We're going to go over the Pharaoh Claws next here. And it's this config here. Okay. So we're going to start with the posture. And for Kubros, and I think for the other Predasites, I haven't done the other Predasites yet, but for the Kubros and for Predasites, Assassin posture is pretty much like the best. However, I think for the Pharaoh, because of the one mod that causes him to leave a little trail of toxin that will give you a buff, for the Pharaoh specifically, you want to go with Protector posture because this will keep him a little bit closer to you. And so you're going to be getting that buff more consistently, more often. He's not going to leave that cloud of toxin spores 60 meters away like you could with Assassin posture, right? Actually, it doesn't say the range here. I thought this was 60 meters for some reason. But this forces him to be closer to you. So you're just more likely to get that cloud. It's also kind of cool because you get +4 puncture procs, which is really nice. And they're forced procs. So these are just little +20 final critical buffs, which are going to be spread around. So, I mean, it's pretty nice. Like I was saying, though, most of the time on Kubros and Kavats, we would be going with Assassin posture because they have really good killing potential. Or not Kavats, actually. Kavats are really good on Protector posture. What was I saying there? Kavats are really, really good on Protector posture. But on Kubros, we would be going with Assassin posture. But for this specific one, because that Toxin Trail, I think Protector posture, keeping them closer just makes more sense. Okay, we're going to have Bite for critical chance and critical damage. We're going to have Maul for melee damage. We're going to have Precision Conditioning for 385% melee damage. And it converts all your base physical damage to slash damage. We're going to have Burning Claws for plus 330% heat, plus 330% status chance. And it converts all elemental damage from these claws to heat damage. Something that I didn't mention is that the Pharaoh Claws actually start in gas damage. Which is cool. It's unique. It's unique that the Pharaoh Claws just get gas damage right from the get-go. But these claw mods, whatever one you decide to use, I think heat is the best one, but if you decide to use shocking or sepsis or chilling, that's fine too. But these are just so powerful not to use. I feel like you'd be gimping yourself by trying to stay with gas. Okay. Next we have Hunter Synergy, and this is unfortunately the reason he cannot use Tenacious Bond. Right now, unless DE fixes it, which I hope they will. So, Tenacious Bond is a mod that would go on the Pharoah Predasite's main build, it gives your Warframe 1.2 crit damage multiplier, which is incredibly powerful. The unfortunate thing is, well, I shouldn't say it's unfortunate, but the thing with Tenacious Bond is that your pet needs to have a critical chance of over 50% for it to activate Tenacious Bond. Now, if you look here, we have a critical chance of 54.7, so this should technically activate Tenacious Bond. However, after the pet rework a month ago, Hunter Synergy stopped working synergistically with Tenacious Bond. And so the game, even though your pet is actually doing 54.7 critical chance, it's still working completely fine. It doesn't work with Tenacious Bond. And so Tenacious Bond, all it actually sees, if we take off Hunter Synergy, all it sees is the 32.3% that we get from Bite. It doesn't actually see the extra crit that we get from Hunter Synergy. So if you're from the future and Hunter Synergy is working with Tenacious Bond, then Tenacious Bond would make it on the main Kubro build. And you could decide where you want to put that, right? You could put it over Animal Instincts if you really want to. But right now, Tenacious Bond is not working. Even if you see your crit over 50%, it's not working. Okay, so Hunter Synergy. Hunter Synergy is going to give you plus 30% primary weapon critical chance added to your companion. This is nice, but it's dependent on your primary weapon. Some primary weapons, I'm using the Grokata. It's a very middle of the ground weapon. It has an okay critical chance and has an okay status chance, but it's not incredibly high in either of those things. So for a weapon that's kind of in the middle, I'm looking at about a 54.7 crit chance. If you were using a primary weapon that had much higher crit chance, like the Dread, it's going to be much higher than this. And if you were using a primary weapon that had a much lower crit chance, like the Sporothrix, it's going to be much lower than this. So this is a little bit dependent on your primary weapon. If you're using a complete status weapon with absolute garbage crit chance, then you may not want to use Hunter Synergy. But I think even for a weapon that is like middle of the ground, like the Grokata, it's worth using. This also increases your companion damage with the bottom effect here. Companions gets more damage on enemies affected by Slash. Slash is a very common element in the game, so a lot of enemies are going to have Slash on them, so that just also gives your pet extra damage. Okay, next we have Mecha Overdrive. So this is that mecha mod that helps with spreading. So I'm going to actually skip the first part, and I'm going to go to the second part just to talk about the status spreading. So companion marks a target every 60 seconds for 3 seconds. Killing the target applies their status effects to all enemies within 7.5 meters. So this just further helps to spread. So you have Contagious Bond kind of doing a similar thing. You have this doing a similar thing. You have a lot of ways to spread statuses. Now with Mecha Overdrive, you see how it says 60 seconds for 3 seconds? Those numbers go up if you use the other mecha mod. Remember, there was that other mecha mod that could go on the main Pharoah Predasite build. So it would go every 45 seconds for 6 seconds, I think, if you had both of them on. Okay, so the top part of Mecha Overdrive is plus 60% primary weapon status chance added to your companion. So again, this is dependent on your primary weapon. Some primary weapons are going to give you more or less status chance depending. Again, I have the Grokata, which is a very middle of the ground weapon, and even with a middle of the ground weapon, I think it's worth putting on your build. But if for some reason you were using a primary weapon that had complete garbage status chance, then maybe you wouldn't want to use this. It also gives you plus 90% status duration, which is kind of nice. All right, and then we finally get to the 1-2 punch here, which is the Bell Ringer Magnetic Strike combo. So Bell Ringer is going to be melee attacks, knock down enemies, and apply plus 4 impact status effects. And the Magnetic Strike is going to be 100% chance to apply Magnetic proc when inflicting an impact status effect. So those 4 forced impact procs turn into 4 forced magnetic procs. So you're producing the 4 forced magnetic procs, you're producing 4 forced puncture procs up here. When he's whacking something, he's also either producing slash or heat, probably heat most of the time. And so, yeah, that's how a little Pharaoh dude works. All right. I don't know if I showed those abilities in the Simulacrum. I don't think there's really any reason to do a gameplay with these, but this is how you would build out Pharoah Predasite. Again, if you're from the future and Tenacious Bond is working with Hunter Synergy, then consider putting it over Primed Animal Instinct, or if you weren't using Synth Deconstruct because maybe you weren't using Equilibrium, you could also put Tenacious Bond over here. But again, that's if you're from the future. Right now, it's not working. So that's it. That's the first Predasite we've done. We're going to do the other two this week before the week's over. So if you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right. Bye.